So good evening. I'm going to give this a minute, let some folks join before I get started. Hey Becky, how are you? So today's day 10 of my series that I started called 28 Vegans. I wanted to use this time to highlight some of my favorite vegans, some of our friends, some people we've become close to, people that I find that have provided inspiration and encouragement to us on our journey. And something I want to make sure that other people understand is that we're all going to make mistakes on this journey. And mistakes happen, all the time when you can't lose sight of your end goal. This is one of those things where when you know better, you do better. So when you learn that you've made a mistake, don't beat yourself up over it. Continue and carry on, and that's one of the things that I hope lots of people will pick up from this conversation, from other conversations, that, there are lots of reasons that people come to this movement, come to this lifestyle. And my guest tonight, she's one of our friends that we met from the Gentle Barn. And she is an incredibly kind woman. She does lots of volunteer work. And she's someone who I felt that has that kindness and compassion that I try to strive for in my message. Do I get it right all the time? Absolutely not. Unfortunately, there are times where I make mistakes. And, that's the nature of being human. We make mistakes. So I want to bring my friend Cheri on here and have a conversation with her tonight. I hope you guys will welcome her and see what she has to say, and hopefully something she brings to this conversation will touch out to someone. So let me bring Cheri in here just a minute. So far, we've been pretty good with the technical environment. There we go.
Hey, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing really well. So, first off, I wanted to thank you for being on here. This is something that I kind of threw together, and I've been trying to scramble and schedule everyone to come on. So I really appreciate you making time to come on here and kind of put yourself out there a little bit. That's always a exciting proposition for most people. So I really appreciate that.
Appreciate you asking me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, this summer we got to meet you when we were out at the Gentle Barn in Santa Clarita, California. So we really appreciate, firsthand all the stuff that you do as far as volunteering for the Gentle Barn and being dozens for their animals and the stories that you share. Yesterday I put out a picture I guess that was this morning. I put that out to advertise for who was going to be on today, and I used a picture of you and Karma.
Yes.
And I think you have a pretty unique connection to Karma. So if you'd like to share a little bit about Karma in particular, or any of the other animals that you're close with.
I would love to share about Karma. I think it was 2010, I stumbled upon the Gentle Barn on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I started watching videos. And one of the first videos I watched was Karma's reunion with her son, Mr. Rojas.
Beautiful.
And it just, I still cry when I even share the story and I'm with her. And a lot of times when I do share the story, if it's, sometimes I'm a little bit more passionate about it than other times. If I've told it 20 times in a day, I might slow down in my enthusiasm. But like if it's the beginning, of the day, which I shouldn't, I should be enthusiastic the entire time working on that. But she even kind of nudges into me when I'm telling the story a lot of time. And but it's just, she was rescued from a backyard butcher and the Gentle Barn brought her over. She cried for the first day and Ellie figured out that she had a baby. And, just that reunion. And then she was pregnant. They found out later. So she got to raise both her sons at the Gentle Barn. And just because she is a mom and, she's lived such a life that has so many stories that we don't even know, what happened prior to her coming there. I don't know. She's a source of strength for me. And
Absolutely.
I'm super lucky to be with her when I can. Yeah.
That picture that I shared is just so, it shows the connection that you have with her and how she just accepts you and you accept her for who she is. Yeah. And to me, images like that are powerful. I have one that is near and dear to myself. It's a picture of Dudley and I. And it's just, one of those things that touches lots of people, and people see that picture and that image, and they understand that connection you have with her without knowing her story, without knowing your story. They see that, and they see that compassion that you're giving to her and that she's giving in return. So to me, that's one of those things that just, that touches people so deeply. And I really appreciate you sharing that. I was glad whoever captured that picture shared that, because it's very powerful.
Barn, she's a great photographer.
Who caught it?
Anya, she's with
Okay.
Forgiveness. Yeah, she's always capturing special moments for me.
That's fantastic, and it's great that when someone catches a moment like that, like, it's wonderful. So, outside of volunteering for the Gentle Barn, you also are a co-organizer for Our Planet Theirs Too.
Yes.
Do you want to kind of share a little bit about what they do, what some of the events you get to do with them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they started ALUM, who started that organization. It's called National Animal Rights Day, and it's held the first Sunday in June every year. I can't remember. It's been close to 10 years, I think, since we started it. I've been involved. I attended one in 2016 for the first time. I did volunteer a little bit at that one, but then the last 2 years I've gotten way more involved. And I think we were held in 37 countries worldwide last year. So it's all over. It grows every year. It's a day, kind of a day of mourning, just paying respects to all the animals who've been killed at the hands of humans, whether for food or clothing or just abuse, anything like that. It's kind of like, it's a memorial service. And we have speakers. Moby has spoken. Damien Mandarin, who I know you know.
Damien Mandarin, love. My wife accuses me of having a man crush on Damien Mandarin. I'm okay with that. I just have
a plain crush on him, so we can crush together. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Elizabeth Alfano, I was talking to her a while back, and she said, "Who wouldn't have a crush on Damien Mandarin, right?" So,
exactly.
What a world-class warrior, a world-class man, standing up for animals in some of the most difficult environments on the planet.
Right.
So, like, props and bravo to him for what he does. I feel that, rescuing an animal here, while difficult and emotionally impactful, he's out there training men and women to become rangers, to defend their property, defend their environment, defend these animals in an environment that is literally deadly.
Yeah.
So just, I think about that kind of stuff, and it's like, well, I'm not doing anything. So
he's kind of a badass. What can you say? Yeah.
I think kind of is an understatement there, but yes, definitely. So one heck of a man. But I appreciate any man that's willing to step up and stand up for animals.
Yeah.
Something I'm trying to reiterate to other men is that, as a man who used to be a hunter, one of my jobs is to try to educate and encourage other men to see things differently. I think that once you realize that it doesn't take anything away from you as a person, whether you're man or woman, to be kind to an animal.
Right.
And to share that kindness is so important. I think it's important.
It's way more manly to be kind to animals than to be a jerk. Way more. It's way more attractive.
I think that more men will be drawn to this. Where there's a documentary coming out, if you've seen anything about it, called Game Changers.
Yeah.
And Damien Mandarin is one of the men that's in it.
Yeah.
But it really starts talking about the myths that you have to have meat and dairy and eggs to be these super athletes or these super masculine men, when it turns out that's not the case. And they show how some of these top level athletes can function at the highest levels, and and they're even functioning at higher levels than they had been before they switched over to a plant-based diet. Derek Morgan, a Tennessee Titan, his wife is a chef, and I think the last time I saw, there were 14 Titans who are now vegan. So if you can function at that level, why aren't the rest of us doing that?
Yeah, I think I watched more Titans games this season than Cowboys games. So
that's a lot for you, right?
That's a big deal. Yeah. Considering where's my Cowboys hat up there? Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think on one of your profiles somewhere you got a picture of you and Tony Romo.
Yeah,
So,
we've been fans for a long time, and I've been lucky enough to meet, and haven't turned any of them vegan.
we're gonna have to work on it.
This though, they did have a challenge for me.
Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Okay. So, I wanted to bring you on, and like something that I want to reiterate to folks is that it's okay to make mistakes, and you shouldn't beat yourself up over it or other people up over mistakes. This is a journey, and you started your journey, you said back in the early 90s, yes?
Yeah. Before vegan was a word that I knew anyway. Yeah.
I was talking to I think it was Bobby Sudd the other day, and we were talking about, I wonder what it's like someone like Sean Munson, who's been vegan for almost 20 years. Back then, you ate whole food plant-based because that's what the options were. And, that's before this was, I would consider the word veganism or being vegan is mainstream, and it's, just picking up more and more attention along the way, which I think is wonderful. So for folks who had been doing this since the 80s, since the 90s, that's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And, along the way, you learn a lot and you make mistakes. And, my wife and I, we've made mistakes. I shared with you earlier that there's an avocado mix for guacamole we used to buy. And it's a powdered mix. And we're like, no problem. We kept eating it. And then one day I just happened to flip it over and there's dry milk in it. And I was just like, it blows my mind when you see where all they hide milk and other dairy products in.
It's so unnecessary.
It really is. And the fact that they almost feel the need to put that in almost everything when it's not a necessity. It just irritates me to no end. We were at Sam's Club today, and Becky had picked up a thing of mixed nuts, and we were reading the back of the container, and it says contains dry milk. Like, it's a thing of mixed nuts. Why is there milk in this shit?
They just want to have an excuse to sell dairy. They need to sell dairy. It's ridiculous.
It's sad when you look at the dairy industry and what happens to these cows, and people, well, they make milk anyway. That's not the case, and it's not as warm and fuzzy as that. So I really appreciate that. Is there anything, you and I did not talk about this, but is there anything?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, this should be easy. So there's been lots of changes that you've noticed along your journey from the early 90s till today. Mm-hmm. What is probably one of the things that has greatly impacted your ability to share your compassion, share your story, share with your friends, and reach out to people? What's something that you've found that's been inspiring along the way that's really helped you?
Well, social media, for one, because back in 1990 or 91, what inspired me back then actually was an album by a band called The Smiths, and it was called Meat is Murder. And if anybody wants to search that on YouTube, I suggest listening to it if you haven't. So back then, music inspired me, and now social media really has, with the Gentle Barn back in 2010. I shared with you a little bit that, after, in the early 90s, I got married and had a family. So then I started eating meat again. And then around 2008, I learned how intelligent pigs were. And so I removed them from my plate. And then it was a gradual thing, cows and so on.
Yes.
So I think just seeing everybody like you guys, and being inspired daily, just, jumping on Instagram or Facebook and seeing what everyone's up to. And, Ethically Elizabeth, like, she's heading out of the country for a month and a half. And I think social media, people are always, giving it a bad rap. It's so horrible. But for me, it is what you make it. And for me, I find inspiration from all of my vegan friends, my activist friends every day. And how lucky is that to be able to be inspired each day by others.
I think that's very important. It's funny that you bring that music up. Yeah. And this is a personal story that I haven't shared publicly with anybody.
Oh, cool.
My wife knows this story, but it made me think about this. So in high school, my sister, I call her my sister. She's my stepsister. Johnny is 3 years older than I am. And she came home one day and had a sticker on the back of her car that said, "Meat is murder." And growing up in my house, we hunted, we ate meat, we consumed dairy. And I remember that sparked a conversation with my dad and her and myself that blew up into a ridiculous episode.
Mm.
That was the last night she stayed in our house.
Wow.
That's how ingrained and how simple-minded I was growing up, because that's how we were raised. I don't fault my dad for that, because that's how he was raised.
Right.
And I think, it's when you know better, do better. But you bring that up, and it makes me want to call her and apologize, because she was a vegetarian back then, and that's how she felt. And I was a very misguided young man who thought that was wrong, what she was saying. And when in fact, when you are taking the life of something that doesn't want to die, that is murder. So, man, I haven't thought about that in 25 years.
Then my work here is done.
You have done quite a good job. Her and her husband and their 5 sons, they live in Ireland now. They became missionaries, and that's just something they wanted to do, and bravo for them. I think, personally, I think anyone on their own journey, like, if there's something that you want to do and you're able to do it, that's fantastic. And I would encourage anyone to follow their dreams and do what makes you happy, what makes you feel whole. But I'm going to have to eat some crow and call her. I have not talked to her about that in forever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good.
So you did do your job. See?
Yes. Yes.
So it's funny how your perspective can change when you start looking at these animals for the kind, sentient, gentle beings that they are. A while back, I'd posted something online about a sheepdog that had been attacked by a wolf because he was defending his flock, and someone jumped on me and said, "Don't be mad at the wolf. You can't be mad at the wolf." And I said, "I'm not mad at the wolf for being a wolf, but what upsets me are people who act like wolves." It's difficult when people won't listen or even look at the animals from a compassionate standpoint, to see what they're going through, the suffering, the torture, the neglect, and to see that they're here with us, not for us, which is one of the reasons I'm a big fan of the organization you help out with, Our Planet Theirs Too. I didn't always believe that way, and I'm very fortunate that my wife was strong enough to guide us to this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest her method, how she started it. She called, and we laugh about this all the time. She called me at work, and she had been following Dudley online at the Gentle Barn, and she felt like she was being a hypocrite by loving Dudley and watching him every day, but yet still feeding our family other animals that we would consider friends today. So she called me at work and said, "I'm done eating meat. Love you." Click. And that's what she did, because she was afraid to tell me.
Oh.
And, I've talked about this before, that as a husband and as a man, I feel that is a fault of mine, that I had my wife feel that way. She knew how passionate I was about hunting and how I felt about these things, but there's no reason that a woman should be afraid of telling her husband those kind of things. So, but I'm glad that she was strong enough to do so.
I love that. That's a good story.
It is a good story, and it had a good ending, because initially I was not on board, and I don't hide that from anybody, that she was ready to make that choice and that commitment, and I was ready to support her at home, but I still did what I wanted to do when I went out with my friends, and lunches didn't matter. I still ate what I wanted to eat, but I wasn't going to force her to cook anything at home. So I had just a little bit of compassion, at least towards her, that I wasn't going to be no, you're going to cook this, but
Right.
I'm sure that was difficult, and I'm sure that's a fear that she carried with her for a while, to know how this was going to turn out. And thankfully, by us going to the Gentle Barn for the first time, that really changed our life, and that sparked what we've started doing and why we've started sharing our story and our journey. And so today I just really want to say thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being a kind, compassionate person.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing your story with others, and sharing Karma's story, in hopes that reaches other people as well. I think the more we can share stories like Karma's and more stories like Dudley's, and we're going to reach more folks, and wake more people up. And the more people wake up, the better off we're going to be, and the larger this movement's going to grow. And there's going to be a point in time that I honestly believe, at this point, it'll be my grandkids, which I hope that's a while before they come around. But I hope someday my grandkids say, y'all used to eat animals?
Yes.
I hope that is an honest to God reaction that I get from kids when I'm 90 years old.
Me too. That would be awesome.
Wouldn't it? That just the preface of that just sounds incredible, and it can happen. And we need to keep spreading the message, kindness and compassion, and educating and encouraging people to try new things.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Cheri, thank you very much for your time this evening. I greatly appreciate it. Keep on doing what you're doing and keep spreading that message, and we'll make this world a kinder, more gentle place.
Yes, and thank you to you and your family as well. So come visit again very soon.
We will try. Our boys have been itching to get out there in particular. We tried to explain to them how expensive it was for just Becky and I, but to fly all of us out, that would that would hurt.
Maybe you drive. Maybe you make a road trip. I don't know.
That's I think it's like 2,200 miles. That'd be a long road trip, but definitely well worth the end of the journey. So greatly appreciate your time tonight, and appreciate all that you do and bring to this movement. So can't thank you guys enough. So I will talk to you soon. If you need anything, give us a shout.
Okay, thanks you guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Cheri.